I have people breaking rules, they don't even know what the rules are anymore. So what's happened is that people are doing things following other people who broke rules and using those broken rules as the new established norm.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is your host, Wes, as always. And today I'm going to break down all the news from DC Comics' New York City Comic Con announcements. And to be quite frankly, there isn't a whole lot exciting going on here, but I did want to cover Dan Didio revealing a new Ultimate DC Universe timeline, a new DC Black Label Harley Quinn series, writer G. Wilson taking over one of Neil Gaiman's Sandman Universe titles, finally DC Comics co-publisher Jim Lee teaming up with Brad Meltzer for a DC Comics war story. I'm going to read the articles covering all these stories. I'm going to give my thoughts on those. And at the very end, I'm going to play a clip from last week's Comics Aficionados, where comic book retailer Pele gave his thoughts on what DC Comics Black Label has ultimately become. Now let's get to the CBR.com article talking about Dan Didio's Ultimate DC Universe timeline. At New York City Comic Con, DC co-publisher Dan Didio provided an update on the DC timeline. "We're trying to organize our stories in a comprehensive way," he said at the DC Nation panel. "This will be the basis of all DC Comics for the future. We don't know what that future is, but what's happening right now is a high level of planning. What we've done is identified the generations of DC Comics. We're reintroducing aspects of our history back into it. What you see right now is a story that will be consistent." Didio then explained that reboots happen when continuity gets confusing or stops making sense. "Wonder Woman is our first superhero," he said of Generation 1. Generation 2 begins with Superman. Generation 3 tackles Crisis on Infinite Earths. Didio originally teased the DC timeline in July at Comic-Con International in San Diego, saying, "One of the things we're working on in the DCU is we're building an ultimate timeline. We're building this so we have a better idea where our stories connect. That's where we made our mistakes during the New 52. We didn't understand which stories mattered, which ones didn't. Once we understand how these characters connect, then we'll be in a place to give you the true history of the DCU." I'll be honest, this is actually pretty stupid. It all flies in the face of the work Jeff Johns is putting into Doomsday Clock. He's clearly centered the entire DC multiverse around the arrival of Superman no matter when it happens. When Superman arrives on Earth, that is the start of the DC multiverse. Now Dan Didio wants to undo it. He wants to make Wonder Woman the first superhero. Sure, technically she was alive before Superman, but if we really want to get into it, the Spectre definitely arrived before her, and technically Krypton is hundreds of thousands of light years away from Earth. So, Superman probably is older than Wonder Woman anyway. Like I said, it's stupid, and there's no way that Dan Didio isn't going to make this more convoluted in the end anyway. Every time the man shows up at a con, he makes DC Comics look even dumber than they were before. His comments regarding reprints and why people aren't buying the current slate of DC Comics just made him look stupid, like he doesn't know the audience, and this just reinforces that. It's a waste of time, and this is ultimately a bridge to nowhere. The next article is from Newsarama.com. Longtime Harley Quinn creators Amanda Conner, Jimmy Palmiotti, and Paul Mounts will be returning to the character and her friends in the Birds of Prey in a new DC Black Label title expected to launch in February 2020. The 4-issue monthly Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey was announced during a press event at New York City Comic Con. With Harley finally done with the Joker, she's moving forward with her life as only she can until she's beset by a rogues gallery of Gotham City's worst villains, the target of a $10 million bounty placed on her head by the Clown Prince of Crime, reads DC's description of the book. It will take the help of the Black Canary, Cassandra Cain aka Batgirl, Renee Montoya, and the Huntress to help Harley and get to the bottom line of why the Joker has turned Gotham's worst loose on her. Conner, Palmiotti, and Mounts took over DC's main Harley Quinn title in 2011, coinciding with the line-wide New 52 relaunch. Over the course of 7 years and almost 80 issues, when counting the main series and spin-offs, Conner and Palmiotti redefined Harley Quinn's role for contemporary audiences, with several of their tweaks and companion character creations ending up in various Harley Quinn adaptations, including the upcoming DC Universe Harley Quinn cartoon and Warner Brothers' Birds of Prey and the fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn movie. I don't know, it's really hard for me to get excited about this announcement. Harley Quinn is so overexposed, and with the movie coming up, they're just pumping out Harley Quinn, Harley Quinn, Harley Quinn. I think this is the third or fourth Harley Quinn title at Black Label. Black Label has become an absolute watered-down joke of what it was intended to be when they announced it. And that's the part of the announcement that actually affects me. I wanted DC Black Label to be great. I wanted it to be amazing. And it should include Harley Quinn stories. But it shouldn't be beset with just Batman and Harley Quinn titles and pop-up comics. I can't believe that DC has rendered Black Label so unimportant in such a short amount of time. I hope that people that enjoyed the Connor, Palmiotti, and Mounts Harley Quinn run from New 52 really enjoy this comic. I hope they're looking forward to it. I hope it meets all of your expectations. I personally couldn't really care less. I don't like a lot of the changes they made to the character. I like all the stuff that Dini and Tim did with the character when they introduced her, when they created her. I wish that was the character that was in DC Comics now, but she's not. And somehow this mass murderer is now a hero. I don't buy it. She's not a hero. And this new version of the character just doesn't really work for me. But that's fine. If you like Harley Quinn, if you like this version of the character, that's terrific. We don't have to agree on everything. The next article is also from Newsarama.com. G. Willow Wilson's taking over DC's The Dreaming title in 2020 with artist Nick Robles. Announced at the DC's House of Horrors panel at New York Comic Con, Wilson made a surprise appearance on the panel shortly following the announcement. Wilson held back from revealing too much about her plans, but did say that William Shakespeare, who was featured in Neil Gaiman's original Sandman run, will be a character in The Dreaming. Wilson's The Dreaming run is scheduled to begin with number 19 in early 2020. The last solicited The Dreaming issue is number 16, set for December 2019. I'm going to guess that this isn't the Dream project G. Willow Wilson said she left Wonder Woman for earlier this year. The good news is the amount of sales she actually dropped off of Wonder Woman in a few short months on the title is far greater than the actual sales for The Dreaming right now. So when she tanks the sales on that comic, it won't even show up that bad. It probably won't be nearly as embarrassing as the reception DC Comics fans gave her when she arrived on Wonder Woman. I've got to say this, the amount of destruction Brian Michael Bendis and his cronies who have arrived at DC Comics have brought with them is just unbelievable. They have tanked so many comic books. Superman, Action Comics, Aquaman, Wonder Woman. They basically killed Wonder Comics before it even launched. I'm shocked that DC is still allowing this guy to have enough clout to bring people in and put them on important comic titles. They have done so much damage, and it all goes back on Brian Michael Bendis and his pipeline to all the failed writers and artists over at Marvel Comics and at Portland. This final article is from CBR.com. DC co-publisher Jim Lee announced an upcoming collaboration with writer Brad Meltzer Thursday at New York Comic Con. The 8-page war story will be part of an upcoming DC War 100-page special. The issue has not yet been formally announced by DC. At Thursday's Meet the DC Publisher panel, Lee professed his fondness for classic war comics. He added that the news story will allow him as an artist to pay tribute to some of those comics' own artists. Lee was part of a USO tour in May that spanned several military bases in Kuwait. It was a really wonderful honor to be able to do that, and I hope we'll be able to do it more going forward, Lee told the panel's attendees. The story will be Meltzer's first for DC in over a decade. Meltzer teamed with Rags Morales on Identity Crisis in 2004 and on Justice League of America alongside Ed Benes in 2007. I like Brad Meltzer returning to DC Comics for the first time in over a decade, and Jim Lee on a nice 8-page story. There's no reason to think he can't handle that workload for sure. I'm personally a big fan of war comics, so I can't wait to hear all the details of what this 100-page giant war comic will entail, and I'll probably be a customer moving forward. That pretty much wraps up all of DC Comics announcements at New York City Comic Con 2019. Like I said, not a lot of interesting stuff here. The most interesting thing probably was the Lee and Meltzer article. Basically, DC shat the bed, while Marvel Comics brought their A-game and announced a slew of new great titles that had the entire industry buzzing. Please let me know your thoughts on the announcements at New York Comic Con 2019 in the comments section below. Now let's hear the playback from Comics Aficionados last weekend, where my friend Pele talks about Black Label and what it has become. So Pele, I want your thoughts on this before we move to the Marvel topics. DC Black Label started out with so much promise. It was just going to be it was the best creators with the best characters doing stuff out of continuity, so there's no restrictions on them. It just feels like a watered down mess now. How do you feel as a retailer? Has DC like stolen money from you by ruining Black Label?
Yeah, I still don't know what Black Label is. You know, half the customers don't know what Black Label is. You know, they think most of them still believe that Black Label is an adult, more mature reader's title. You know, I mean label, and they're like, oh, but this doesn't make sense because of this. You know, why is this Black Label? Or why is, you know, they're confused. I'm confused. And when you have the You have the stores and the customers confused about what it even represents, what books are supposed to be part of Black Label. And it's a fail that in itself will lead to the failure for the brand, because we don't know. We have no idea. It's whatever they decide to put in there. And the only thing I can tell them right now is well, it seems to be a repository for books that don't fit anywhere else and are out of continuity. There's nothing premium about it, even though I guess it's supposed to be a premium brand, but it's whatever doesn't fit anywhere else. They'll just put it here and try to hype it up and make it seem to be something special. And
now it's the home of like pop-up brands, Hill House Comics, and then they threw Young Animal on there. And like, if you read Harleen, you're like, the art's really good, but there's nothing adult about that book. They say the word ass once.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like there's nothing mature in this. This was such a failed opportunity they had, with Batman Damned. The launch was just pitch perfect. They should have went ahead with the Batwang and embraced the Batwang. Just embrace the maturity of the title. And
I'm sure you would, Wes.
Embrace the Batwang, and to go forward with that and say, we're not going to back down. This is going to be a mature audience title, and we're going to make people uncomfortable, and we're going to make people really think. This is going to be hard-hitting writing, and that was such an opportunity there, and they just fumbled the ball. I mean, it just absolutely unreal how badly that was fumbled.
Really?
No, I was going to say, back to you talking about Black Label means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. It's just whatever. It's like Marvel Spotlight. It's whatever they want to spotlight at any particular time. They stick it on Black Label. That's it.
So right now it's a Harley Batman label and some other pop-ups. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.